Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about types of attacks. So, for any attack that could happen, it should be one of two kinds, whether it is an insider attack or it is an outsider attack. So for the first type, imagine that we have a company, and in this company we have many employees who can access the data. So whenever they decide to attack their own company that they work in, that is considered internal attack, because the attack came from inside the company. So to cut it short, if the attack came from inside the company, it is considered as internal attack. But in contrast, if the attack came from an outsider, so a person who does not work in this company and does not have an authorized access to it, it is considered as an outsider attack. Countermeasures simply means the cautions that we need to do to defend ourselves from these kind of attacks. So after we saw where the attacks can come from, now let's see what types of attacks do we have. So there are two main types of attacks. The first type is active attacks, and this is when the hacker or the attacker tries to attack the system with a goal to change the content of the message that is being sent. This could lead to serious effects in terms of the system integrity and the system availability. But thankfully, this type is easier to detect comparing to the second type, which is the passive attack. In this type, the attacker tries to take the content of the message that is being sent and store it or make copies of it. And this type mainly affects the confidentiality. Also, since it is a passive attack, it is harder to spot. After we learned the two types of attacks, which are passive attacks and active attacks, now let's have a look at examples of each type of them. Starting with passive attacks or passive threats, we have release of message contents. Also, we have traffic analysis. On the other hand, we have the active attacks. We have masquerade, reply, modification of message contents. Also, we have denial of service. So we're gonna get to each one of them, starting with masquerade in the active attacks. Masquerade is an attack that uses a fake identity to gain unauthorized access to personal computer information. So to make it short, it is the process that hackers use to pretend to be another person to gain access to the system. As you can see here in the figure, we have three main characters, which are Bob, Alice, and Darth. We can see that Bob and Alice are trying to exchange messages together. And also we can see Darth, who is in the top of the figure, and he is trying to send to Alice a message pretending that he is Bob. This process is called masquerade because Darth is trying to send a message to Alice pretending that he is Bob. So before I explain the reply attack, first we need to know what is a traffic. A traffic is the network link that connects the sender to the receiver. In our case, the sender is Bob and the receiver is Alice. So the straight line that you see that connects Bob and Alice, this is the network or the network link. So the reply attack happens when Bob sends a message to Alice and Darth, our attacker, will sniff or take the message that is being sent, and later he will send it back to Alice, pretending that he is Bob. So Alice will think that it is a real message that has came from Bob, but in reality, it has been replied from Darth. So that's why we call it the reply attack. When we refer to modification of message content, we mean by that there is a communication between Bob and Alice, and Darth changed the message that is being sent. So Alice will receive the changed message, not the original message. Denial of service attack, or DOS for short, are cyber attacks that make a computer system, network, or service unavailable to its intended users. This can be done by flooding the target with requests, exploiting vulnerabilities, or executing malicious code. So the goal of DOS is that it cuts access to the users and the service becomes unavailable. In release of message content, as the name can tell, in this attack, Darth will only see the content of the message that is being sent over the traffic. No modification or anything else. Only he will see the content that is being shared. Note that It is considered an attack because some sensitive data could be shared throughout the traffic. Traffic analysis attack is an attack where Darth analyzes the communication that happens between Bob and Alice. Even if the communication is encrypted, some data could be captured, like the location of the message and the frequency and the length of the messages that are being exchanged. This might determine the nature of the communication between Bob and Alice. By that, I would thank you for watching and see you in another video.